Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see, I do need to rotate this around. There we go. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody popping in. Long time no see. Good afternoon, everybody popping in. Good afternoon, everybody popping in. Good afternoon. see, where's the good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Well, it's a life cycle. So I'm trying to show the whole life cycle of this creature that I designed a while ago. But I've just been working on this live, so it's taken a while to get it done. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm just mostly massaging. I need to get these guys in the back, I guess, cleaned up a little better. So, yeah, afternoon family picnic, maybe? So we got eggs in there, we got little hatchlings coming out. Got different aged ones in here. No sound, what do you mean? Can you hear me? Should be able to hear me. Can you hear me? So I get sound over there. How about now? How about now? So it shows microphone on. How about now? I'll just check my, no Bluetooth. No Bluetooth. Can you hear me now? Can anyone else hear me? My sound's on, as far as I can tell. Um, um, how about you, Iderio Fatal? Can you hear me? It shows microphone on. How about you guys? Can you hear me? So Fontaine Danielle can hear me. Alright, so it's probably on Ree's side there then. Something. Thank you. I say, because my volume's on. And so's the microphone on, so. That's a relief. So it's good to know I'm not crazy. Everybody else is crazy, not me. I am using Infinite Painter. It's on iPad, iPhone, Android. Does a lot of kind of unique things, but that's what I've been using mostly lately. So I know Procreate's way more popular, of course, but I think this one does a lot of really unique things that others do not. Oh, there you go. Good job getting sound back. Yeah, don't scare me like that. I'm very sensitive. Nope. If I was working on this for a client, you would not see it. This is for my own personal world building project. I've been developing the last while, actually. It's kind of more of a portfolio update, but I've had some other thoughts for it as well. And I appreciate that. Yeah, trying to bring it to a finish. I've been working on it here live for a while, and a couple hours here, an hour there, a couple hours here and there. weird. A lot of people are excited about what's going on with Halo today. I don't know if it'll be meaningful or not, but a lot of people talking about it. So there's supposed to be different ages on them. So these are the adults. This is like younger. This is like, you know, a super small one. So like the babies basically. So when I'm doing these like creature design things, I like to do, you know, the turnarounds and life cycles and things like that. And I thought instead of just doing like a standard life cycle, what if I showed them in like a wildlife situation as a family doing their thing? Go ahead. So how's this one doing? Let's see. Prostik. Spasiba. Za kompliment. Yeah, I don't. My attitude has been um, that I think in probably even the near short term, probably in the long term, I don't see it really impacting it all that much. Um, I tend to find when I talk to people who support using it, they present two reasons for using AI. One is for efficiency, and then the other is saying that it gives them better ideas than they would get on their own. So for that second one, if you don't have any good ideas, then that's your own problem. It's not an excuse for producing volumes of useless junk. And the other one, in terms of efficiency, that's another one I don't understand either. Is being able to more efficiently eat Big Macs or tacos doesn't improve the quality of that experience. Design, by its nature, is a human activity, first of all, but it's also one that takes time because you're solving problems. And these AI programs, they don't really solve problems. They just present outcomes. I wouldn't even call them solutions. So, and I think anyone that gets into the habit of relying on these tools for either their efficiency or their creativity will discover that they have neither. Because one of the things that's been quite notorious is there's a lack of capacity to be able to really art direct the stuff. You can't make subtle changes. You can't do the things you need that you need to do as someone who solves design problems. And so, I don't really see anywhere where it's going to go. There's also, of course, the number of issues regarding, and that's outside of the moral questions about how the stuff is sourced, the environmental and energy costs that exist behind it. They're talking about reopening up nuclear reactors in order to feed the need for the energy for it. There's plenty of other good reasons to do that, but I think nuclear is as far as safer, cleaner fuel as long as we're handling it safely and carefully than other things. But and then it's costing far more, and it's creating problems. So when it creates problems, though, for someone who's relied on it really at all, or to any great degree, you don't know those problems are there because you've just accepted what you've been given. It has the same effect that photography has on people, where people just accept it as being real, when in fact it is not real. And so those are kind of the big issues I see. And I think other people too, because I've known a lot of people say they want to be the art directors of it, or that kind of thing. And I think the other thing that artists will face, or designers will face, that come to rely on it, is that they'll believe that they are good enough, intelligent enough, capable enough, and experienced enough to be able to use it in a discerning way that allows them to be the creative directors of it. But again, I don't believe that's true. I think there's a point that people will reach when they're using it that they won't be able to tell the difference between getting what they want and accepting what they get. And I don't think they'll even know when that change happens. And I never want to put myself in that position, ever. It just seems like a direction that'll only take you towards failure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will be able to, maybe we'll usher in a new golden age of people being more conscious and aware and attentive to what's going on around them and their own mind and their own work. But I don't find that to be very human. As humans by default, and it's a result of our genetic heritage, is that we are always looking for more efficient ways at doing less. Or, always trying to find what we think is more, doing more with less. That breeds kind of laziness when brought into its full form. We're always trying to figure out how to make our lives easier, and then, so that laziness is just kind of inherent in us. But yeah, that's my thought. So I would say, if you're going to combat it in its current state, that would be just being a better designer than you've ever been, being more observant, more knowledgeable, more thoughtful, more capable, going out there and collecting the kinds of experiences that separate, normal artists from the excellent artists. Looking at studying the great the masters of all art to kind of bring your work into alignment with that. And that's what I think. So, because I know a lot of people, like there was a recent thing where someone I work with, because I teach concept drawing at a university, so maybe I'm aware that I have my own biases, and I could be wrong, but people are using it sometimes to like write emails or other things like that, very short ones. Hello, Dr. Terry. If you're there still. But then this same person spent like an hour revising this email that was 2 or 3 very short paragraphs, and sending it out for feedback from people when it was very easy email to write. And I won't go into the particulars of it just because I don't want to put that person on blast, but I don't see any efficiency gained from the use of an AI email written for this person. So but I think anybody that's interested in maintaining their own mind and their own consciousness will avoid that stuff like the plague. Because again, most time people talk to people, again, it's just their own lack of efficiency and their own, or fears over their lack of efficiency, and then their own lack of creativity. And for me, those just aren't very good arguments. Plus, you stack everything else on top of it that's a problem, and gets much worse. But that's what I kind of think. I teach at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. So it's a good place. A lot of good people there. Um, I'll unplug this for a little while. It's getting a little toasty. So yeah, I've been at this university. Yeah, so we teach well, the class I've been teaching since I came here is concept design drawing, and so it's kind of a mixture of different concept uh, projects. So creature, environment, creature, character, equipment, um, architectural, vehicular, and storytelling. Good afternoon. Alright, those ones aren't making it over there, huh? You need to go there. I didn't have time through. Oh, we lost time. That's good. Hopefully, we can mostly finish this today. Yeah, that's what most people use. Infinite Painter has some unique brushes like these, which you can get in Clip Studio, but in this one you can also add textures to them, which I really, really like. There's some other unique things in here, like when you draw a curve, it'll snap to that curve, right? And in Procreate you have to hit a separate button. In this one you hit the actual stroke, and then you can edit the stroke. And you can also change like the type of stroke, so it can go from a round thing to a corner just by tapping on the point. And you can also change its size by moving your fingers up and down, 3-finger touch. Going up and down changes its size, left to right changes its opacity. And so it does a lot of like unique things that I like, that I find especially useful, that I don't think other apps really do as far as I've been able to tell. So I kind of switched over to this one a long time ago. So if you imagine if you're doing like something a little bit more technical, that'd be really, really handy. You can't import ABR brushes, so Photoshop brushes in here. You have to make your own. I've thought about putting out some brush packs because I've got some that I've made for myself. I just need to kind of perfect them a little bit more. But it's like I have an ink set that I really like, and this paint set that I've kind of developed that I really, really like. So yeah, those are definitely things that I appreciate about it. I have worked with them in the past. The guy who makes it, his name's slipping my brain right now. But I did like a present. They paid me to do like a presentation at Lightbox a few years ago, which was fun. I did a little commission for a spaceship for him. That was a fun little project. I also kind of modify the interface so I can move the color picker around. It's normally hidden, but I've brought it out, and you can set it wherever you like, which is another kind of nice thing. Or like the buttons I have up here, they're part of the modified interface. So yeah, those are a bunch of things I really like about it. Has a lot of interesting perspective drawing tools as well. Other ones have perspective. This one, the shapes that you draw will snap to the perspective space, and when you move them around, they'll change their shape based off of where they are in the perspective space. So I really like that. No problem. Yeah, let me know if I can answer any other good questions. Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. It is 3:45 p.m. So it's early after, well, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, I guess, coming up on evening. I'm on the east coast of the United States. How about you? Ah, well, terre viste. I've been to Estonia. I lived in Tartu a long time ago. In Annalyn. Yeah, the Leaning Tower of Tartu, right? The building that's leaning over. They replaced, when I was there, it was I think it would have been 1997 or 8 when I was there. It's been a long time since I've been to Estonia, but I think the last time I was there was like 2001, maybe? Yeah, I imagine so. Everything does, right? Um, of course, the Estonians were famous for having terrible pronunciation in Russian. Good thing everybody there speaks English. Better than most English speakers. And you can speak while breathing in. Yes, yes. Ragama esticaut. Esticaut. Well, I think it was the pronunciation. Just the accent is very difficult to understand from Estonia. That's the reputation. So this is Infinite Painter. It's on iPad and Android and iPhone. It has a lot of unique features that I like a lot. And so I always like to recommend it to people. Like, it has really interesting kind of perspective tools. The way it does some of its brush stroke stuff is interesting. So like if I draw, get a different color. Let's get a bright color. Let's get the opacity up. So if I draw a stroke like this and hold it, it'll snap, right? Kind of like other apps do. But in this one, you actually tap the stroke and you can edit it. You can also change the curves into corners. So that becomes a corner instead of a curve, which comes really, really handy, right? And the other thing you can do is when you're, if you want to change the size of the stroke, 3 fingers, you go up and down, you can change the size, and 3 fingers left and right will change its opacity. That one doesn't seem to be working for that stroke, but normally does. Let's try a different brush. Maybe that one's just got other things in it. So tap that again. There we go. There's the opacity. That's kind of really handy. I also really like these fill brushes, and they have these in like Clip Studio Paint, but in this one you can also add textures to it, which I really, really like too. So if I'm working on these shadows here and I want to keep a texture in there, I can do that. So it has like these where are they at? It's probably in my inking set. There we go. It has like these brushes that kind of snap together. So it's like a webbing brush. It's also really nice to have. I think Krita has those, but yeah, but you can't import like Photoshop brushes in here like you can in Procreate or Clip Studio. It's a different kind of application. But I don't know that you necessarily need to do that for everything. Yeah, I think that it downloads for free and then it unlocks everything when you pay for it. It's not very expensive. I think it's like something like 10 or 15 US dollars. I'm not sure how that gets converted over to euros. I still have a bunch of Estonian krona somewhere. So it's been a long time. Yeah, I don't know how the average Estonian feels about it, but I think a lot of those Baltic countries and smaller countries, they gave up a lot joining the EU. Like I'm 1/4 Lithuanian. I spent actually more time in Lithuania than I did in Estonia. Kalbu lietuviškai. Um, but the but like Lithuania had to give up their nuclear reactor. Well, that nuclear reactor was perfectly safe, even though it was old, and it powered 90% of their country's power needs. And so now electricity. Whenever they shut it off, it's been a long time. Ever since they shut it off, they've had to depend on Norway or other places. Yeah, like I think Lithuania at the time was the most economically powerful. At least when after the Soviet Union collapsed, like they had the strongest economy of the Baltic states, at least for a while. I know like Estonia got a lot of help from Finland because you guys are kind of like brother and sister or something like that. We share a lot of similar culture, and the languages are very similar to each other. But I guess Estonian is slightly easier, a little bit simpler than Finnish. But yeah, I wonder, if that was good for those countries in the long term. It just seems like there was a lot of opportunity that they gave up by becoming just a very small country inside the EU. But I don't get to make those choices. I don't live there, so it's just an outsider observing. I know. I remember reading or someone telling me that Belarus is building new nuclear plants along the border of Lithuania. Yeah, because your language and culture is very similar. You just happen to. I think there was a time when Estonia gave aid to Finland, so kind of they were the poorer country, and I guess Estonia was helping them out at the time. Maybe before World War II or something like that. I might be able to actually get Lithuanian citizenship because I'm 1/4 Lithuanian, and which would be interesting to have like an EU passport. I just have to find some genealogical information because for people that emigrated, I think at or after 1905. And I collected some of that a long time ago. I thought I gave it to my parents, but they say they don't have it, and I'm not sure that's true. But I need to dig around for that to see maybe if I do have it. I don't have it here. I know where everything I have is here, but maybe it's in a box at my parents' house. Something else here. This is a problem. I can bring this guy up a little bit more. Break that up some. But I think that could be fun. Well, not necessarily fun, but be nice to have. Because then I could, work in the EU a lot more easily. So my family history, they left I think in 1905. So it's been a long time, but I do speak Lithuanian. It's not as good as it used to be, but I do speak it. So. Yeah, because I know it used to be like 1915 or 14, which I think is their first, one of their Independence Days, because they've got a couple of them. I think it's the first Independence Day they consider that one, and I think they extended it further back just because the populations and it's probably the same in Estonia, but the populations have gone down a lot. A lot of Lithuanians left. Of course, a lot of the Russians have gradually left over time. Um, yeah, so I know, like when I was there, Lithuania was like 3.5 million people population, and I think now it's less than three, if I remember. Yeah, I think Estonia was 1.5 million back then, but I think 1/3 of the country was Russian, right? Because like half of Tallinn was Russian natives, Russian speakers. The Russian speakers kind of at least back then, it was kind of a bit of a miscommunication because that maybe they were Armenian or maybe they were Ukrainian or maybe something else, but they just spoke Russian, but and not the native language. And a lot of people were stuck there. A lot of people, there was a lot of Russians who didn't want to leave because things were really bad economically in Russia back in the 90s, after the end of the Soviet Union, and but they also didn't want to necessarily. Well, Estonian's a very difficult language to learn, and they didn't have to learn it growing up, and so it's a real challenge to master that language, especially. But sort of. So I've been working on a concept project the last, well, probably a couple of years really, but when I first started thinking about it. But um, I wanted to kind of do a portfolio update that included some skills updates in the 3D area. I'm not showing that here right now, obviously, but But I want to do kind of a new portfolio project and do this world building project with it. And so the idea is there's a planet humans have colonized, and there's kind of evidence of a prior civilization, but they appear to all be gone except for a number of artifacts I'm calling totems. And so as I've been working on this little project, I've come up with some story ideas, and so I've been trying to kind of use that as a way of helping my imagination to come up with new ideas. And so anyway, one of the story ideas is to have this these people, they're going to go out to illegally look at some of these totems, or like there's an area where there's a few of them, and in the process of that, one of them gets separated, and they're trying to find this person. And so there's these dangerous creatures that live in the forest, and so I want to come up with some predator designs for the forest creatures. So this is one of them that I think I might use. For the story. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a graphic novel. So if you see all like the comic book drawing, that's me preparing some practice samples to help me out with that. And that's what I'll be working on in the evening. Yeah, so that's the. I had like a bigger, more complicated epic story, but I figured that would be simpler to do. Thinking about doing it as a Kickstarter, kind of like 50-ish page graphic novel. I've written a story treatment, but I need to go back and revise it, and then come up with some finished character designs and things for it. But hopefully launch that in the new year sometime. And then go from there. Yeah, so this is a much simpler story. There's 3 characters. There's a small number of creatures, a handful of locations that are out in the wild, and that'll kind of give me the space to figure out the other parts, even if they're worth doing. So like if a Kickstarter does really well, funds easily or whatever, then I can know, I can maybe move forward with this other story too. So I wanted to put together, this is part of this general portfolio thing, but hopefully get all done with it, or essentially done with it by the beginning of the new year, so I can jump on that. It's actually important for my current job, which I'm a professor at a university here in Virginia, and research is an important part of my job, and so and for me, research usually means professional activity or publication or other things like that, presentation at different facilities. So this project like this would be really helpful. If I don't feel like it's going to move forward, at least I'll have a portfolio I can use to start finding, professional work come January. So that's my so that's what kind of this is partially for. So a lot of the work you've been seeing me doing is kind of in preparation, if you've been paying attention for that. All the live streams. I haven't really been posting kind of regular stuff on here in a while. Partially just due to how, Facebook has all their little AI rules now that I find annoying. And I've put a bunch of stuff up there last week. I had a whole bunch of stuff I've kind of, from my sketchbook especially, and then some of the 3D projects. So I did that over the last month or so, a couple weeks ago too. But if you go to rainlandstudios.com, you'll see portfolio updates over there. Yeah. I've kind of went through and night shaded a bunch of it, so I can probably start bringing it over here too. I just had a lot going on, so I haven't bothered with it yet. I've never done any, so I don't have any thoughts on it. I mean, it seems fine. My only thing is, that I don't know how well it ever takes off. I think as long as you have to wear a box on your face, I just don't ever see it ever really becoming that popular. So once they can kind of solve that problem, then I think it'll definitely be more interesting for people. So I mean, I'm sure I've never done it. Just so I don't have any strong opinions about it. But I just I've seen VR stuff come and go many times. It seems like it pops up every 5 to 10 years. That they finally kind of figured it out. The marketing machine hits it, and seems. It just seems like it never sticks around for very long. I know there was a big push with like Facebook and some other people because of their metaverse projects recently. So there's been a lot more money put into it recently because of the COVID. People thought remote was going to be the thing, and now it's kind of changing back to being in person. So I think there's been a lot done with VR a lot recently, but I don't know how much of it's going to stick around. So I think part of the problem is when you do sit down and you're like playing a video game, you kind of put your brain into a VR mode. And so it's like when you're driving a car, you become the car, like in your brain. And so you aren't sitting in the driver's seat. You feel like you are the car driving the vehicle. And it's the same for kind of how video games work already. So when you're playing a video game, you don't really feel like you're holding a controller. Really, you feel like you are in the game, and so. Um, so I think that's the other kind of thing too. Is like it needs to be more engaging, more engrossing, in a way that we already kind of have psychologically going on. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. So what we'll see. I just have seen it come and go many times. So dog finally came over here. He's been sleeping in the other room all afternoon. Blender and Nomad Sculpt. I'll probably go back to ZBrush, especially now that they have that iPad version. But I've been using Jama Jurabayev's Quick Tools a lot. It's a set of plugins for Blender specifically, and that do some interesting things. I'm probably trying to do more with them than you're really supposed to, but yeah. So yeah, so I'm working on trying to finish up a little. I've been doing a design for one of my totems with it, a little scene, kind of little, I call them little vignettes or a little terrarium scene of it. Yeah. I mean, I like to hand draw things, but I want to try out some of these kind of newer techniques. That's probably the portfolio project is for some of these newer, not necessarily new techniques, but just ones I haven't used as much. Uh-oh. Pause due to poor connection. Is the dog on the internet? Bosh, what are you doing down there? Yeah, pause for a second. So, yeah, a few of my projects I have up on my website are done using Quick Tools, or mostly Quick Tools. I did just find a relatively inexpensive compositor. I forget the name of it. Its initials are BS, but it's like Blender something. But because I know, like the intent that Alexander, who makes the actual plugins, it's kind of more like setting up something simple that you paint over. But I kind of like the idea of doing like simple environments or objects or things like that that are can't take it beyond what it really intended. Yeah, it takes me a while to kind of get used to new mediums too. So, but I've kind of dedicated a certain amount of time every day to working with it, and I think it's starting to get good results. I just need to maybe limit the number of activities I'm doing every day, because I get up and have like 2 hours of what I call morning studies. So I'm looking at some art, sketching artists' work and practicing some certain techniques. Yeah, that's the like when you're not sure what you can do, it makes it really hard to kind of focus on what you need to do. Um, so, yeah, I'm well aware of that. It's one reason why, like, when I'm teaching my students at the university, I try to keep things very, very focused, very narrowly, and Um, and that's why it helps to also just have a project you're working on. So if you're just making random stuff, it's very hard to focus. But if you focus in on making, a specific type of thing, or like I have a production list actually for my portfolio projects. I'm not just like picking random stuff. Um, I have a very particular list, and yeah. So yeah, 'cause I have a very particular list that I've been kind of gradually working through. I think maybe if I need to like limit my activities down to like 2 or 3 rather than 4. So in the morning I have my morning study, then I jump into the 3D stuff. In the afternoon I'm working on this, and in the evening right now I'm working on that. Those comic pages. I'm inking those. That should actually go a little bit faster because I'm inking them now instead of just penciling them, which was taking a long time. But yeah, it's good. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So, um, but I thought I'd be done a lot sooner than I am, and maybe that's probably my own fault, I would guess. But not right now. I tend to be, when I'm doing my own work, I tend to be a lot more focused on the quality of it. Um, so I'm doing stuff for a client. There's kind of a difference for what they need. So like I could spend weeks working on something on my own, and really I haven't put that much. I mean, I have put some time into this, but it's probably maybe a week's worth of time into this particular illustration, which is probably more than I'd want to put into for a client. But but I'm also kind of separating out, just working on the afternoons. If I was doing this all day, it'd probably go a little bit faster. But yeah, usually a client, their needs are different, so they don't always need finished work. So fully rendered and everything's super detailed and all that. They don't typically need work at that level, as far as I've seen anyway. I think I'm finally coming up on a finish on this thing, so maybe one more session to kind of work out the final set of tweaks and details. Yeah, so that's up to them, kind of how. I usually, when I'm working with a client, it's how do they want me to spend the day. So I usually I try to charge by the day or by the project, and that way they can kind of choose where the effort goes. Because usually concept art, it's kind of reference for production art. It's not designed to be production. So if it's like good enough for their production people to move forward, then that's great. So oh, okay. Yeah, I tend to just whatever they need. So with these kind of portfolio pieces, I just like to take my time. Plus, there's a lot of things like you wouldn't normally do something like this anyway. This is more of an illustration than a concept piece, I guess. I guess this is for my own little personal edification. Yeah. As I've been trying to explain to my students, that a lot of what they see in the concept art books really isn't most of what they would do as a concept artist. There's a lot of drawing, a lot of sketching. It's all visual explanation. And so I teach concept design drawing, and so our focus is on kind of line art, a little bit of tone, but really showing, covering a broad range of topics while, getting their ability to come up with ideas more developed. And so, most of what they see isn't going to be what the actual work is. So because that's the picture they see, or they go to ArtStation and they see a bunch of finished work, and that's just not going to be what's there. And you definitely want to have that for your portfolio, um, but you know, it shouldn't be. You know, most of them aren't doing key art or keyframe illustration, those kinds of things. You know, it's going to be a lot of just kind of figuring out how to make things work. This has been kind of more or less on the go for this one. But I usually kind of set up like, you know, I'll kind of spray the color around over the drawing. The alchemy brush. That's the I think. Well, I think you're thinking of. Let's see where to go. This one. It's kind of like a web. They have this one here, but I'm using the. This is more of like a, it draws shapes. Okay, I know his work. Um, I haven't. I'd like to see demos of him working because I've never seen any. Maybe I should look around a little bit more. Yeah, I think it was there was a like a website or something, right? Yeah, so this app has a lot of kind of interesting stuff that most other apps just don't have altogether, and so I've always really liked this one. It used to crash, and now I haven't had it crash in a long time. Um, I think you must have changed something this summer in an update. Well, you can, you know, double tap to undo. So if I, you know, draw that, double tap. Um, so you can, you know, undo. Oop. So plug this back in. Instant flip. Let's see how that feels. Oh, something crashed. Oh no, this turned off. Oh, I hit a button. Hit the, oops, there it goes again. Have to move that off to the side. There we go. Careful when I hit the button. Hit the lock screen. Oh yeah. Well, I flipped it backwards. So it's supposed to go this way. This is how I originally drew it. But this is a instant flip canvas button. So you can put shortcuts up at the top, which is really nice. So if there's certain shortcuts you would like to use all the time. Yeah. So like Procreate's really good. Like especially you can do your 3D texturing in it, which is really nice. The app, the brush system is really good. They have really good marketing. But ever since I kind of switched over to this one, I really haven't gone back. I go back and use it once in a while, and I know they've added some features in since I really stopped using it. But like the things like just being able to draw a shape like that is just so handy. That it's hard to imagine not using it. Yeah, so yeah, it's not very expensive. I mean, it's just the usual kind of app expense. You can download it for free. I think it just has like limited functionality in the free version. Um, but I really like it. Yeah, Photoshop's just a pain to use these days. There's a lot of like interesting things you can do in Photoshop, but all the AI stuff's just annoying too. Like if you're using clone tools and things like that, it'll label your work as being AI generated because it's plugged those tools into it, or it's like I just don't want to use it really. I use it in my classroom just because it's kind of still the industry standard, and I think the students should see how it works. But mostly in class, I'm just drawing with it. I'm not like painting too much. Um, but it's like like it's weird too because like it seems like they're really focused in on like destroying their client base, and I don't understand why. I think it's like they believe that these tools are going to give them new clients, but why use theirs when there's lots of other options for AI tools out there? Yeah. I really should pick up Affinity Designer. Maybe I'll get the university to buy it for me because it's so inexpensive. Infinity Photo, Infinity Designer, and the publisher one. Give those a try. So I think I've got research money left over for that. And yeah, and well, for that version anyway. But same thing, for this app too. Like it's a one-time payment. That's why I like Nomad Sculpt. Like I like it because it's like ZBrush, but it's just really easy to use. It's got a lot of depth. It doesn't have everything that ZBrush has, but you can do a lot in it. And there's a lot to be said for that. And then Adobe really hasn't innovated. You still have a lot of bugs, like using the eyedropper tool in Photoshop's a pain. Like half the time it doesn't catch the color, and you have to do it 2 or 3 times. And, it's just become bloatware. And it's, they never really cared that much about painters anyway, or illustrators. They're focused on photographers. But photographers don't like this AI stuff for the most part either. They're like, what's it do for them? It doesn't really do anything for them. Besides some of the editing things. Yeah, sculpting's fun though. It's once you kind of get into it, it's and they have some really cool stuff in there. Yeah, but again, that's always been true of Adobe stuff, is they haven't ever been very focused on like concept artists and illustrators' needs. They've got other things that they're focused on. Yeah. It's like the big mistake I think that happens with AI is that people see it kind of as this shortcut for ideas. I was talking to somebody else about that in here earlier, and usually what I'll hear from people who say they like using it, or they want to use it, or they like the results they're getting, is they'll say 2 things usually. Yeah, maybe people will get into Krita. Clip Studio Paint works really, really well. Again, these iPad apps are really, really nice. But usually people will tell me 2 things. They'll say, it's more efficient. So it gets them more ideas more quickly, or something like that. And then the other thing they'll say is it gets them better ideas than they would come up with. And so that second one, I'm like, well, that's definitely a you problem, not a me problem. I've got more ideas than I know what to do with. Like, how many more do I need? And then the efficiency thing, that one's kind of a more difficult one. But really, the way I kind of look at it is, more efficient at what? And that's the big question. And I'm like, well, you can get more efficient at eating McDonald's burgers, but that doesn't mean they're ever going to taste any better or be any healthier. The more that you eat, the more quickly you eat them. Like, that just sounds sounds silly to me. And then, because part of where ideas really come from is your life experience, and the other place where they come from, ideas don't come from finished product. They come from that exploratory phase. And so, like, even me taking a long time to paint this is part of my idea creation. So there's things I've figured out while painting this that I didn't have in my original sketches. And that's because in the process of painting it, these ideas became evident or necessary. And so if you don't have that as part of your process, you're leaving your ideas on the table, like that they never get to exist. And I think those ideas don't get talked about enough in the arguments about AI, because a lot of people focus on the legal aspect, which I think is fine, is good, and some of the moral aspect, like there's CP in the data sets, like it's in there, or dead people or murder victims and other things, all that's in the data sets, and why is everyone getting that information put into their work? I don't want that information in my work. So that's like the moral arguments. Another thing I would tell people too, because the last school I was at, the department I was in, they were very excited about AI. They wanted to find all kinds of ways to implement it into their program, and because they felt like this is the future and they better be prepared for it. And I understand the fear, but they seem to believe that what's going to happen is they're going to become the creative directors of it. And I told them that's not going to be the case at all, because if it goes in the direction that everyone seemed to think it's going in, which I don't know that it will, but based off of what people think, they won't need creative directors, and they won't need artists. They won't need creative directors. They won't need marketers. When someone wants to bring a product to market, they just say, or they won't even think about what the product is. They'll just tell their system to develop and distribute product that will give them a certain amount of profitability. That's kind of the dream of what people have for AI, and there won't be any need for these creative directors. I just thought they were just completely wrong about it. And then, but my other thing I would tell them is like, you might think that right now you are smart enough and experienced enough and capable enough to be that creative director. You'll be able to look at things and assess them and be able to say, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is useful, this is not. And like right now, you might think that you can do that. I said, but eventually you'll get to a point where you won't know if you're getting what you want or accepting what you get. And and you won't even know when that happens. People get really mad at me when I tell them that, because it feels like I'm insulting their intelligence, and I'm not. I think it's true of anybody. I don't think I'm an exception to that rule. I think humans, we are naturally very lazy. We want to make our lives easier. We want to do less. We want to do less and get more. So it's part of our evolutionary heritage. And the idea that you can kind of sidestep that part of human nature, I think is just ridiculous. I just find it completely unacceptable, because people do like to think of themselves as being rational actors in the world, but we are not at all. And if you don't recognize that, then it is easy to make that mistake, that you think you can handle that kind of experience, that you think that you'll be able to tell the difference and be smart enough and capable enough to do that, and I just don't think that's true at all. And then what's driving a lot of the AI development stuff is just people trying to make their corporate numbers go up. So it looks like they're investing in future technologies, even if it's going to be a complete failure. It's like, I wasn't really against the NFT thing. I never got into it, but I kind of watched it. I knew people that had some success with it. I'm still not necessarily against it, but I looked at how quickly that came and went. In less than a year, it basically disappeared. There's still some people out there that are kind of involved in those markets, but um, but it popped really fast. And you're seeing this kind of more and more with uh, technological developments or trends. They seem to come and go really, really fast. I think it's just the broader communication in the world. But I didn't necessarily think that was the worst thing in the world. I thought it certainly had problems that needed to be solved for it to be viable. Like, I like the idea of digital artists being able to have a market for their work similar to a gallery artist, a painter or a sculptor or something like that. I like that because think about it's hard to like have an animation and have that be a unique piece of art that someone can collect and all that. But so I like the idea that was kind of the intent behind it, the structure behind it, for a lot of people. But I just don't think the technology is where it needs to be. Like one of the things that one of the problems with it was that you can take artwork, or the ownership of the artwork, rather the ownership of the NFT, of the certificate, you can take that off chain. So one of the things that people wanted to say was that an artist can keep getting profits from those sales, if the work gets sold in the future. So say they have like a 5% commission every time the work gets sold, which would be great for artists. A lot of them be more independent and have resources they need to do their work. But it turns out you can take those NFTs off the chain, and so that you no longer are automatically given those benefits. And there's other things people can be concerned about too, but that's like a major weakness with the way that people were describing the potential of the benefit for these NFTs just for artists themselves. The other problem too is it was only benefiting really short-term collectors and the artists a little bit at the beginning, and so it didn't really have like a broader positive application. And you can talk about whatever power usage or ecological issues as well, but for me those were kind of like the market issues that it faced. Once the hype kind of faded, those were things that were clear that were issues with it as a potential product for artists. Because people are like, oh wow, this is really exciting. The artists can produce the kind of work they want in the mediums they want, and people can celebrate and benefit them, and that would be awesome. That would be really good for, I think, people in general, but ended up not being really how it works. I think this is getting pretty close to what I wanted from it. Like I know a guy who's friends with Beeple and Gary Vee, someone I was working with at my last university. I don't think either of those people felt like they were deceiving anybody, that they were tricking people, or doing any kind of fraud. But I think a lot of hype got built into that. I did see Beeple was putting out some kind of box with like an artwork projected on it. That seems kind of interesting as an art object. But I remember when the guy who bought his piece for his NFT for $69 million. This guy from India. And the guy's justification for why he spent so much money on it was he just wanted to prove that people from India can spend a lot on art. I just like that. Just didn't seem like a very good justification. Yeah, people, he'd been doing his daily pictures for 12 years. That's a big deal. You know, some of them were, so a lot of them were kind of funny political cartoons, which I like. You know, I appreciate people who make fun of all the sides consistently. It speaks to my my politics, but so it's like I don't think any of these people that I know were really deceiving anybody. You know, some of these people are just really good salesmen. Like, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk's a really good salesman. He's a marketer. That's what he does. Sell. And I think he has a lot of interesting insights. I don't think he's right about everything, but you know, he definitely knows his profession. So I think he's definitely someone worth paying attention to. You know, same with people and other people that I know that I disagree with about things. We have hit 5 o'clock. That means it's time for the dogs, WALK. And then it's dinner for me. And then I'll probably be back in the evening to work on that comic page. Hopefully bring with that one to a finish and start another one. And this maybe get back to on Wednesday, I think. Tuesday is my long teaching day. We're jumping into isometric perspective. Should be a lot of fun. So, but thanks everybody that came in, and we'll talk at everybody later.